All right, we are here. It is the finals of Planechase League. We're at Mega Draft round 3. We got it all on the line here. We got Daniel G, Frisky Hobbit, and he's playing against Jesse, who we saw last round with his green-red deck that went from blue to white, and very, very exciting match here. And we're seeing Daniel's deck for the first time. His blue-red, basically control deck. As will anybody looking at his hand sees, he's got just a bunch of things that say no or stop to the opponent. So what's Jesse holding there?
We got Metallic Mimic, already played the Varkin Dissidents coming down as a 3/3 because of it. There's a Jukai Preserver and a Band Together besides from 2 more lands.
Yeah.
I will say that either way this final match goes, there's going to be a nice story because Frisky Hobbit is the defending champion. I don't think we ever had a
Yeah,
back-to-back
I
champion in the
was,
league.
I was, I was going to get to that, dude. Have we ever had back to back? And
Just straight up.
yeah, extremely impressive.
And Jesse has a story too, where it's his
Oh,
first
yeah.
league back since leaving the server for a little bit, and right here in the finals, and a couple cool, interesting matches on the way to the final game too.
Yeah, and it looks like Jesse has just gone with this Naya deck now as his primary deck rather than the blue.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. So yeah, only 2
So
spells in hand, but one of them's visible.
yeah. So Daniel G. I haven't gone through his hand yet, but he has 4 counter spells. So Jesse
4
will
counters.
not be resolving too many spells here. So he's got to be happy with what's on board. He will allow these creatures to resolve because he can block them. But he has an Essence Capture and Essence Scatter, both of which counter creatures. Quench, which counters anything but makes the opponent pay 2. And
Well,
Whirlwind
that's
Denial,
about to come
which
out.
counters all opponents' abilities and spells that are on the stack unless they pay 4 for each.
That quench was huge because he didn't need to resolve any more spells to have a dominating board,
Yeah, so he's going to play his
for the next
Fountain
little
of
while.
Renewal. Really interesting card here. Like, usually in a blue-red deck, you don't have access to life gain, but this actually gives him life gain. The problem here is that this current dissident actually has a pump ability, which is going to actually cause a headache here for Daniel. He does have the Hypothesizzle in hand as his other card, which can kill that thing, but it would have to be in response to a pump. So he's just going to sack this to
Quench,
draw a card.
yeah.
Yeah, so if he gets a land, which he does, he could just cast the Hypothesizzle right now. But he could also hold up one of his now 4 counter spells because he's drawn a Disdainful Stroke. So we saw
Oh
his
yeah, he took the
pool.
counter spell.
We saw the blue spells were like the blue non-creature spell column was like as long as I've ever seen a column in any Mega Draft pool in my since we've been doing this. So
He decided he's going to be the counterspell gamer this draft.
yeah, I don't think we've ever really seen a deck in a Mega Draft that had this many counterspells and was this controlling. We've seen decks, blue decks that had counterspells as part of their plan, but this is like his primary game plan is to just stop the opponent and win with something. He's drawn an Aven Wind Mage, so that could be that
Jesse
could be to something.
Jesse had already built a pretty relevant board that was about to get even more relevant if Pledge of Unity resolved, but yeah, quench just in time there.
And the good thing is that he only has to counter the spells that are really threatening to him. So like the creature spells, if they can't attack past his blockers, he doesn't need to counter them. He can just let those creatures sit there. Um, and now instead of countering things, then we can just start popping off these creatures with the voltage surge. He has a Weldig Sparks, which deals 3 plus the number of artifacts you control to a creature.
Oath of Ajani was a top deck there, so another board pump. Not looking as great as
So does Jesse have a removal
board
for
pump.
this Wind Mage?
Band together,
Okay.
band alone.
Yeah, so Wind Mage doesn't really combine well with counter spells as a win con. It gets +1/+1 whenever you play an instant or sorcery. So it's a sort of a toned down version of Prowess as we know it. Prowess counts any non creature. This is just instants and sorceries. So like I said, doesn't pair well with counter spells as far as being on the offense, but still gets the job done. So he's gonna counter
Jesse
this
showing
with
his
any one of his counter spells will do it.
Jesse showed his Pima, but Daniel didn't want to see his
So
Pima.
looks like the band together is going to get this Aven Wind Mage off. So the one thing we did notice looking through Daniel's deck is that he did not have that many ways to like quickly close out the game. like did not have big creatures, didn't have like these, one of these crazy 6-drop flying bomb rares or something that just gets the game over with fast. I think he was going to be leaning heavily on that even. So he has 2 counter spells in hand. If Jesse can draw relevant creatures at a higher quantity than Daniel can draw counter spells, he will have a path to victory here. Let's see what comes
Pima
this.
again off the top. It's all Pima all day.
Well, all counter spells all day.
Ultimate Johnny's really wanted to be played with this wide board, but it's not happening.
This is... Oh, is that what he has in hand?
Yeah, that's the only card.
Okay, so that's going to get countered. We play this game. He still has Disdainful Stroke and Welding Sparks left. So, yeah, like I said, we've never really seen a deck that was just this controlling, really, in a Mega Draft. But like I said, one flaw is that it doesn't... yeah, so interesting that Chimera comes off the top, because this is a card that is pretty resilient to removal and counter spells. But Daniel drew the perfect answer with a Capture Sphere.
Oh boy. I was going to say, Jesse was top decking very well. Last 3 draws was Pima, and Loathsome. But there's answers.
So this is actually interesting here, because this makes the Jukai Preserver be able to attack, and he can't actually get rid of both here. So this is actually going to be a problem until he finds something else here. So he can Capture Sphere one of them, preferably the Chimera, I guess. But he might have to do it to the Preserver.
Jesse's Planeswalker spells are going to cost 1 less too.
Because we know Daniel's not gaining life, so he has 15. He has exactly 15 points of life to work with, no more. All right, so that gets locked down. But now there's Chimera, which is a problem. He could Welding Sparks it, but it can be recast.
Jesse's top decking insanely right now. Another 4-drop with Outland Boar.
Okay, that's gonna get stroked disdainfully.
Yeah. Just beaters for the last 4 turns.
So he's blocking to get the energy, because Shielded Aether's Thief reads that you could tap it, pay 3 energy, draw a card. So he's going to Welding Sparks, but he's going to get that energy before. All right, he's drawn a Naiad of Hidden Coves, which is a 3-mana 2/3, and your spells cost 1 less when it's not your turn, I believe.
Pretty good with your counter spells.
I mean, yeah, right now he has all the mana, so that's not an issue. But in the early game, that card can get you some really, really efficient turns. So I believe Chimera requires you to exile 3 or 4 cards on the escape.
3 out of the 6 in the graveyard right now.
Okay, so that's pretty big that it's 3, because that means I think he has another crack at it, right? If it dies.
Yep, exactly.
Yes, this is gonna be annoying. Yeah, you were thinking the Oath of Ajani might not be impactful, but it actually did change a lot.
Oh yeah, it would have been better with the Pimas, but still, it was still good.
Yeah, because it forced him to cast the Capture Sphere on the Preserver, rather than on the Chimera, which is where you really want to put a Capture Sphere on a Chimera, because it's one of the few permanent ways to answer it.
I see Daniel looking at graveyard count, because block with the Naiad here means Loathsome can still come out again.
Yeah. So it looks like he's going to take it here. And Jesse has a follow-up, I guess. Okay, here's a Boar. That's going to get disdainfully stroked.
Pretty sure Walls don't like that card.
Yeah, so Daniel has an interesting card on Discover the Impossible, which I believe remembering the exact text on that card is impossible. I believe you get to look at the top 5. And if it's a spell of like 2 mana or less, you get to cast it for free. Otherwise, it goes in your hand. Something like that.
Exile one of them face down. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If it's an instant spell with mana 2 or less, mana value 2 or less.
Otherwise, it's just like an impulse. Look at the top 5, get 1. So
yeah.
Right, so he's gonna kill this Chimera again.
Gonna come back though. Last chance for now.
Yeah, so the other cards in hand, he has a Mountain and a Lazotet Plating, which gives you and your permanents hexproof, and you get a little 1/1 army.
Yeah, solid card.
So Chimera's coming back. So I guess he could. He could have discovered the impossible in response. If he found a counter spell, he could counter it.
Now, Band Together is in hand. It is something that can go to the graveyard when Jesse
Yeah.
wants, so
Yeah,
that means Losum can be played
Lazatep
again at some
plating.
point.
Lazatep plating will counter it. Right, so he's looking at 3 lands and a couple draw spells here.
Not just for the removal aspect. I'm saying that can go to the graveyard, meaning Losum is like guaranteed to come out.
Yeah, so he chose to
Again.
take a mnemonic sphere into his hand, which is we'll see. It's a little divination type of card here for 4.
I like it.
Yeah, just he has the draw spells, he has bounce spells, counter spells. Oh, okay. So interestingly, he's drawn Devious Cover Up, which is actually a permanent answer to the Chimera. It exiles the spell, and then you get to shuffle back 4 cards from your graveyard back into your library. Chaining those was kind of a win con back in the Guilds of Ravnica days, if you played back then.
I believe there's only 2 cards in graveyard right now, so Chimera can't be cast unless Band Together is
And
cast.
the other card that Daniel drew is one of his other win cons, which does win the game quite fast, is the Thundering Raiju.
Yeah.
Which is that rare from Kamigawa. It's a 4-mana 4/4. It has haste, I believe. When it attacks, you put a +1 counter on any creature you control, and then you deal damage equal to the number of other modified creatures you control to your opponent.
I caught the end of a semifinal game. That card brought him home to
that
victory.
is one of the few games he has to win fast. So the Band Together got stopped here, and looks like this Raiju is going to basically have free reign over the game. He could have even attacked with the Shielded Ether Thief. It does not have Defender.
I think Chimera is not castable. It seems
here's
so.
a
Maybe there are only
Dissident. I think he's going to let this
2 other
resolve, even
cards.
though he has the mana to pump it. I don't think he really is too concerned about it.
Yeah.
Right? He's drawn he's drawn another control card here. He's another defender, the Riptide Turtle. This one has flash, so it's a Wall of Mist that got upgraded to be cast at instant speed.
Well, his deck is walls, counter spells, and a couple finishers.
I mean, yeah, this is exactly what we saw when we were looking at the pool. We just never seen a deck that's been this far down into the control route of just so many counters that just came together. I don't know, if that was like a thought of his to specifically go towards a strategy. But every set has counter spells, every set has draw spells. If you get enough of them, and if blue is open enough, which looked like it was, you end up with a deck like this, which is just we see functioning. Doing exactly what it wants to do. It's enacting its game plan here.
Jesse's draw for turn was Integrity Intervention, which is a card that can go to graveyard, which means Loadsome Chimera could come back.
Yeah, that's another interesting card too. Yeah, so that's it's 1 mana for a +2/+2, or 4 mana for what we call a Lightning Helix. 3 damage to any target, gain 3 life.
That's it.
All right, so Kesmina's going to come down here, which is his draw for the turn. Just another nice little value card. I mean, it doesn't win you the game, but it just gives you so much for 4 mana. So he's going to try and kill this Raiju here, but there's going to be a cover-up.
That was the answer to Chimera, so
and now he gets to shuffle back just whatever choice spells he wants. Draw spells, probably. Hypothesizals, maybe.
The answer to Chimera is not as needed now, though, with these tutus coming out.
So hypothesizals, the 2 hypothesizals, the draw spell, the sphere, and 1 other card he gets to shuffle back here.
Must be frustrating.
Oh yeah, this is like the green deck's worst nightmare, right? You're countering stuff, you're bouncing stuff, you're just And when your opponent allows a spell to resolve, it's because that spell is like gonna do nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
So like when your opponent does actually allow you to resolve spells, they're probably not things that are going to be impactful because they're countering those.
So there's a 2-mana tax now on all Daniel's permanents because of this Kesmina?
No, it gives sort of like a ward ability.
It's not countered, but it just costs more.
Yeah, spells cost spells that target permanents you control cost 2 more or something. Something to
Creatures
that
or
effect.
planeswalkers. I just looked
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
Well, Jesse has more than enough mana, so that's not going to be an issue. Is he up to 10 mana yet?
Now, why is the Chimera not castable? Why is that?
So he does have 10 mana, which represents 2 activations of this Dissident. This Dissident is stopping the Raiju from attacking here. So he gets to loot. He's drawn to Ionize, and now he has Omen of the Sea as well, which looks like he's just going to cast main phase here. So just card draw. Ionize is a counter spell that also deals the opponent 3 damage. Really strong card here in his deck. He's going to put 2 lands to the bottom. Happy to see those go away. Draws another island, but yeah, Jesse needs to find something to poke through this board, and it's gonna have to go through a counterspell first.
Savage Smash off the top.
Yeah, Savage Smash unlikely to resolve here.
So Loathsome Chimera needs to exile 3 cards from graveyard. I thought there were 3 already. Might be wrong.
Well, it might be counting itself, right? Like if it says there's 3 cards in its graveyard, it could be one of them.
Yeah, that was the case before the Integrity Intervention went to the graveyard. Oh, does that exile?
No, the Integrity Intervention got exiled by the cover-up.
Yeah. Exiled. That's what happened. Well, Savage Smash will be the third other one, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these 2/2 tokens can get in the way of Chimera, and there's a 1/6 in play as well.
So that's just all Jesse has to do. It's the Varkin Dissident Pump. Otherwise,
yeah, the Chimera's not really a concern anymore. He made his Wall of Mist a 1/6, so he can just block that off. And Daniel's just going to keep going through his deck and finding what he needs here. He's going to keep a Metamized Prophecy on top, which is another card that can gain him some advantage here. You start off by scrying. You choose a card name. Then, if you draw that, cast that card, you draw 2 cards, and then I think you look at the top card of each player's library.
Yeah, it's a really unique card.
So he's keeping a Chemister's Insight on top, as well as a, I guess I'll have to say it now, Ichthyomorphosis, I believe. I was trying to avoid saying it earlier, but we're here now in the finals. We gotta call the cards what they're intended to be called. So what's Jesse holding?
Card picked up. It's Savage Smash, and the card just picked up is a famous from last match, Tamio's Safekeeping. I don't think it's as relevant in this matchup.
Right, so he's he's having a hard time finding Ichthyomorphosis in the card searcher here. He's just putting in all sorts of ways to spell it, but none of them are actually showing up. Okay, he figured out he needed ICHTH as the first 5 letters, so he found it after some searching. Yeah.
This game asks you to spell it, not just say it.
Yeah. He put ICT, IC something else, and it didn't quite work out. All right, he's redrawn his Mnemonic Sphere to go along with his. So he's got 4 more cards down, drawn here, down the tunnel here, and 2 more from the Ichthyomorphosis. So he's just going to outcard Jesse. Unless Jesse finds something that really turns this game around, he's going to figure out, he's going to draw his way into whatever he needs. The thing is, with a deck that has this few win cons, that doesn't mean, the fewer win cons you have, the more time your opponent has to potentially, sneak something in, resolve something that is going to really, really put you in a bad spot. But he does have the counter spell in hand here.
He's trying to savagely smash using his already removed creature. He's going to pay the tax even. 5 mana. Conclave Guildmage was picked up this turn.
Yeah. So Conclave Guildmage is a card that can just produce 2/2s turn after turn after turn. So that's like another unique sort of threat.
Yeah, that's fairly useful against exactly what's going on. Just like sitting back and trying to find my...
The thing is that Jesse knows that Daniel has the Ichthyomorphosis, which takes away the abilities of that Guildmage.
Well, Tamio's is being held up.
Ah, okay.
Nice little...
Interesting.
The hero from last game. Let's see if it can save the Guildmage.
Now he's drawn a Chandra's Triumph, which can also off it. So So he's gonna
Uh-oh.
cast
It
this.
gets hex.
He's gonna draw 2 cards.
I see.
All right,
He's
let's see
gonna
what he targets
respond.
here. Okay, he's actually targeting the dissident. He doesn't like the pump here. It's a little too threatening. So that's gonna get
But
safekeeping, and now Chandra's Triumph can deal 3.
okay.
Yeah, so this Guild Mage can pump out 2/2s. It's very slow though. Now he's drawn an Electrify, so which is 4 damage to a creature. So this is just it's getting out of hand here.
The ping is gonna be for 3 here, even just on the Thundering Raiju attack.
Yeah. And if he double blocks, it's gonna get electrified. It's we are moving to game 2 imminently. Yeah, what
Card
a
draw,
deck here!
walls, counterspell.
Just just a combination of just these blockers and the draw spells and the counter spells and the removal. Just such velocity of him finding what he needed. With this opening hand of 4 counter spells, we knew that it was going to be an uphill battle here for Jesse. So I imagine Jesse will have a lot to think about in his sideboarding here. I know he's very he's very attuned to sideboarding when based on what he sees in game 1. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to make some big changes here.
I'll try and catch what changes are made. We've got to see a game 3 though, for the fans.
Well, Jesse's certainly hoping to see a game 3. Daniel less so. So I think he's added a Scorch Mark, which is that little 2 mana deal 2 damage in exile spell. He saw mostly all small creatures, and it also is a clean answer to the Chimera, which was there was a couple turns there where the Chimera looked like it was gonna possibly be an annoyance.
Jesse might be messaging somewhere or something. He's just staying on a screen looking at his white cards without moving. Oh, now he's looking at the board state.
Yeah.
Probably just took a break.
If he's going to figure out what combination of cards he needs to bring in against this, whether it'll work, we'll see. But, I imagine he's going to do some sideboarding here.
Lost Vipers, Daggerback Basilisk, Story Wave, and an Arcane Encyclopedia are being looked at. Daggerback Basilisk, of course, can attack your walls.
Yeah, the Death Touch creatures are good against O5s. Yes, that is a fact. But also they're just one, like it's just a 1/1 or a 2/2. Like Daniel can just take a couple hits and then get rid of them later. He does have the burn spells.
Also looking at Gift of Strength, which can pump past a creature.
Yeah, pump spells. Yeah, he's like I said, he's gonna have to get creative because he's just gonna kill the small creatures and counter the big ones. That's kind of the what we saw here.
Also looking at Rosemaid Centaur and Boggart Brute as some somewhat beaters. Is Daniel's deck ready to go, or?
No, he's still sifting through a couple choices here. Taking out Heartfire, taking out Discover the Impossible, just a little too inefficient for what it is. He brought in Scorchmark, and I think he brought in another removals, like another little cheap burn spell that deals 2 damage or something. I didn't catch what the other one was, but it was probably one of those little burn spells. Because he saw a couple big creatures, but he saw a lot of small ones.
One thing to say is for Jesse, he knows exactly what to expect out of Daniel's deck, so he knows what will and won't work. It's kind of a straightforward plan he's up against. So for that reason, he's putting in looks like Starcrown Stag. I guess it wasn't in the main board. That can obviously tap a wall or something on attacks, and once it resolves, it's already dangerous. So just getting it to resolve gives it some nice value.
Yeah, it's very, again, very, very, that must have been a very frustrating process there. Just counterspell after counterspell. Like, how many counterspells can he have? The answer is, as many as he needed, basically.
Looks like all the matches are finished, so this is the last one, and it's the last one for the whole Planechase League.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, we were either going to have a first-time winner, Jesse, and his return to the server, or we're going to have a back-to-back winner, which could be the first one. We don't have too many multi-league, multi-time winners, and I don't know if they've done it back-to-back, but yeah, just
Uh, the intel says it's never been done. I see in the Discord threads.
all right. Yeah, so we are looking at a very accomplished player adding a title to their resume here, either a first or a second. So it looks like Daniel did submit his deck. I guess Jesse's still weighing his options here.
4 cuts, cutting Circuit Mender. Doesn't
Okay.
need the. They
Yeah,
can't enter the
just
battlefield. They can't leave the battlefield. So
yeah. Circuit Mentor is kind of like a card that when your opponent is a little faster than you want, and this is not the case. Jesse knows his role in this game is he has to get on board fast. He has to have creatures that can attack through high toughness, and he needs to be resilient in the late game. So whether he can do that, we'll see.
I'm liking this Moss Viper edition. Yeah, we said Death Touch is good against these 04, 05 walls, which we've seen at
Yeah,
least 3 of. And it can resolve early when you
yeah.
don't have
He
to
had the
counter.
04
So
Ether Thief, which does not have Defender, but is for all purposes going to be a Defender, and he has two 05s, one with Flash.
fairly importantly, both Savage Smashes now sided out. I guess instant speed reaction is not what you want to be against when you're trying to cast that.
Yeah, the thing is that like Jesse has very little removal, but I guess removal is not really the name of the game here. Daniel doesn't have too many threats. Jesse just needs to produce more creatures. Like, take out Savage Smash and just put in more creatures because the Savage Smashes are almost never going to resolve the way that they're intended to. When your opponent has this much instant speed, whether it be bounce, counterspell, or burn spells to break up
It's a way to lose.
these fight spells.
So the Rumbling, I'm not sure the name. It's a 6 mana 6/6.
Okay.
That was just taken out at the last second, so down to 60 now. It was about to come in. I don't think.
Ruin, I believe.
Yeah, it's it wasn't ever in. I think he took it out anyway.
He had it in game 1 of round 2 with his Teamer build, but then when he went with his Naya build, he took it out against Sawyer.
You don't want your 6-drop countered for 3 or 4 mana, 2 or 3 or 4 mana. So
yeah, it's just these counter spells. They're often they're often trading. You're often trading up on mana with them. So you Disdainful Stroke. You're countering their 4-drop for 2. Like Quench, you're countering their 4-drop for 2. Like feels hopeless sometimes when your opponent has what they need. So is Jesse's hand well suited to fight against all this?
we got a 2-drop. There's a Star Crown Stag on 4. Okay. There's a Jukai Preserver, a Gift of Strength, which is a pump spell, and Story Weave, which is synergy with
I believe
Sagas, and
it puts 2 counters on a creature, right?
Or two
lore counters. Yeah. So it's just a resilient trick. It's like a trick that can fight through a wall and still leave something behind. So Daniel's hand, kind of what we come to expect from him. Only 2 counter spells this time. So Metallic Rebuke and Ionize. On the burn spell side, he has Welding Sparks and Hypothesizal. He has Lazatet Plating, and he has Chemister's Insight as a card draw on an island. So not as many counter spells. But he has some burn here.
There are 3 choices of turn here. Heroic Reinforcements wasn't it seems, because we're going to combat. But Jukai Preserver and Starcrown Stag. We'll see which one comes out.
Yeah, well, it's either going to get burned or counterspelled, depending on Daniel's preference here.
So Channel cannot be counter, though. I don't know if you thought about that.
Which one? Oh, Channel.
Yeah, so that's not what he went for.
You could still get your creature messed with in response, but
yeah.
So the Preserver's resolving. If it's targeting itself, yeah. So he's going to Welding Sparks here. And so he's drawn Kasmina. I think he's just going to pass as he does. So again, Metallic Rebuke, Ionize, Chemister's Insight, Lazatet Plating, all castable here. But none of them stop him from taking 3. So Jesse has to be at least happy about that.
Yeah, he is not casting the Star Crown Stag.
Okay,
as
interesting.
is probably intelligent.
Yeah, but you have to. But what are you doing if you're not casting it, right? That's
That's
the
true. He's
problem.
just trying to wait. He's waiting
Yeah,
for the shields to be down,
but the shields
which
aren't
might not
coming
work out.
down. That's the problem. Um,
Uh,
okay.
there's pack saver and gifts of strength there, so that's what it combined. Is that +8/+8?
Yeah, so Daniel does have a Kami's Flare here, which is a 3 damage to a creature.
+7/+7, sorry.
Yeah, so think I think that's what Jesse's going to try and do, right? He's going to try and beat like one burn spell by playing 2 pump spells, perhaps.
Could be. There's also story waves, so there's options. It's just he doesn't want to put down heroic reinforcements or Starcrown Stag and just like
Well, I
get it
think he
countered.
said my 3/3 resolved. He's not blocking it. Resolving things is not really doing much. So here he's going to hypothesis it, which is going to draw out the pump
Uh,
spell.
I think this is it a lethal crackback? If he uses story wave to evade this damage and just double pumps, that looks like +7/+7 on the
Okay,
crackback.
okay, so he has two. So he has three
Story
pump spells
wave.
in his hand, one of which is going to leave counters
Yeah.
behind. Wow, yeah,
Oh yeah, it's counters.
this is exactly what he needs to do. He
Overkill.
needs to find a window. He needs to get surprise damage and needs to get in early, which is what he's doing here.
Yeah, it's overkill because story wave lives behind those counters, but
Yeah,
he went. I don't know. Dino went for it. It looks pretty safe, but the two pump spells are
I
coming in
mean,
clutch.
he figures okay, worst case scenario, he saves his creature with a pump spell and then untaps and attacks me again for 3. And then I figure out, I
You go,
reassess
ooh,
from
it's
there. But
5. You go, ooh, it's 5, not 3. Oops, and then oops, it's +7 on top of that.
yeah, so he's got an Ether Chaser here that he's going to play. So this actually works in nice combination with his burn spell with first strike because he does have the Kami's Flare. So it looks like his intention is to block and probably maybe try and Kami's Flare him to kill it in first strike phase. But so
So
Jesse,
the draw here was dagger back,
he has +3/+3. Or what's the other pump spell?
tax favor, and gifts of strength. So one's
Oh, so he
I,
has okay. So he has
I
two
can't
plus three plus
remember.
threes. Yeah, they're both plus
Oh,
three
they're
plus
both
three.
3/3. I'm so wrong on so many fronts. There's too many green pump spells. Can't keep track. But yeah, dagger back basilisk was the draw. It was meant to counter the wall start, which didn't happen.
He just went for no blocks here, so he's going to continue to take 5.
Mm-hmm.
He could have gone for the Kami Flare combo kill here with Kami Flare and first strike damage, but that would not have worked out very well.
When you know your opponent's full of counter spells, it makes your options
Here's
interesting.
Starcrown Stag that. That's not going to work out. So looks like that's going to get the Essence Capture here.
Captured.
All right. So notably, if he drew a land here, he could have played 2 burn spells to kill the Preserver, but I don't think that's exactly what he wants to do. He's going to make a little blocker here, so good. That's what he's trying to do. Kazmina is going to come down, make another blocker. I think he's hoping to draw another land here to have Ionize up. Okay, so he will still have Metallic Rebuke up because he could tap his servo. Metallic Rebuke, which has Improvise, so you could tap artifacts to reduce the generic costs of it. So you could get it down to potentially, well, for him, he can pay 1 and a blue and then tap an artifact.
The draw was another metallic card, Metallic Mimic.
Okay. So he's got those 2 pump spells, and he has, a couple other creatures, I guess?
Basilisk and
Right,
a
yeah.
heroic reinforcements.
Okay, Heroic Reinforcements is another potentially source of some real surprise damage here. Yeah, so he's blocking with the 2/2, so Jesse must read something into that. Um, maybe he's going to try and play a burn spell, but he's actually keeping up his Metallic Rebuke.
Metallic Mimic. It works on anything ET being, so the reinforcement creatures. Could kind of get a pseudo board pump with Mimic and reinforcements at some point.
Yeah, because you could
But I
name
don't know if
them.
it's going to
You could name
resolve.
whatever they are, soldiers or whatever it is.
I'll look it up, actually.
Yeah. Either way,
It
Jesse's.
is soldiers.
You have to play so carefully against these counterspell decks. You have to really tread the line here of knowing when to, what spells am I okay getting countered, what spell will I maybe be allowed to resolve because it's maybe not looked at as threatening. Just interesting, very interesting back and forth here because we got a clear aggro deck against a very clear control deck. Like there's no, there's no gray area of what these decks are trying to accomplish. So he's going to fire off the Kami Flare here. Jesse can save his creature with one of his pump spells.
The 3 cost 1, but it has Convoke, so you got to think about what actually is cheaper. The Gift of Strength, which costs 2.
Yeah, 5 damage, 5 toughness is actually really unfortunate for Daniel because he can deal, like he has another Hypothesis which can deal 4. So it's tough here. So is there any reason that he tapped his Mimic and left Plains untapped? Was there any...
No actual reason except for probably buffing.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that might have been it. I don't know if he showed a 1 white card yet. Oh, there's Zeal. Was that a different game? Might have been a different game.
Yeah, we saw it in previous rounds, but...
Yeah. Looks like
Okay, he's going to go
reinforcements
for the
in his
Heroic
deck.
here. So this can get rebuked. It's counter unless you pay 3. So he doesn't have to improvise here. He also has Ionize, he has Quench, and the Hypothesis. But Hypothesis does not kill the 5/5, unfortunately. And he's at 5, so he has blockers, but blockers only get so far. Okay, so he's gonna double block here.
Gift of Strength coming out.
Yeah, so this combined with so he's just gonna quench that. So he is gonna trade both his creatures here, but the big threat of the 5/5 is gone now.
Couldn't afford to have that creature gain reach.
He's got an Arrester's Admonition, which bounce spell that draws a card. If you cast at Sorcerer Speed, you draw a card. Which he is. He's got a Capture Sphere now to go along with his Ionize. So it looks like he's he got through the rough patch here.
There's an Ionize held up.
Yeah. Or Capture
Mimic
Sphere.
and Basilisk. Mimic, Basilisk, and Mountain.
Yeah.
Jesse'd kill for a Lava Axe in a couple turns when the counters are out.
Yeah,
I don't think he has a Lava Axe.
Where's Thrun when you need him against the control deck?
Can't be countered.
Can't be countered, can't be targeted, can't be anything. Yeah, but unfortunately these creatures are just of very little concern to Daniel. The Mimic trades with his 1/1, and the Basilisk he can lock down at any time.
Looking like pretty safe if I'm Daniel here.
Yeah, I mean, he is at 5, so he can't really sit back and take hits. He does have to proactively get these creatures off the board. He can't just let them attack freely. So it looks like he's going to Hypothesis. So draw 2, discard a non-land. When he discards a non-land, he deals 4 damage.
Jesse's deck has those Trampler Pima Outriders, and he has... I don't remember if he took out the Clothis board pump or not, but there's some chance.
There's a Nurturer.
Centaur Nurturer coming out.
2/4. I mean, Daniel's either going to counter it or lock it down next turn with a Capture Sphere, so one or the other. Guess he's not countering it. Well, he's got a Naiad of Hidden Coves, which can block it, so he's happy to cast that. And now with 5 mana up, he actually can cast both his Ionize and his Chemister's Insight. This is where the Naiad just does wonders. He can cast 7 mana worth of spells with only 5 lands. So he's going to start off drawing
Fantastic,
2.
yeah.
He's drawn an Essence Scatter here, so he's at 5 life, so it's potentially precarious, but with the counter spells and the capture sphere, he appears safe for the time being.
Yeah,
What's
unless Jesse has a can't be countered
Does Jesse have? What does he
spell.
have in hand right now?
It is a Conclave Tribunal.
Okay. And what else? Land or
Oh, sorry, yeah, it's a land and a
okay?
Greenwood Sentinel just off the top, just a
Yeah,
2 mana 2/2
2/2
Vigilance.
for 2. Not of much consequence here. Yeah, so the Aven Wind Mage is like something that can win
Oh,
the
look
game
at
pretty
that.
quick. Oh, it is a 3/3.
An elf. He named
Yeah.
elf, I guess.
Yes, he did name elf. He does have a lot of elf. The Pima Outriders are all elves, and a bunch of his other cards
Oh,
are
yeah.
elves. I think the dissidents as well are elves. The 2/2 with the pump. So I think this 3/3 is actually going to get capture sphered here. Yeah, as unexpected as you would be to do that to a 2-drop, I think he's kind of priced in here at 5 life and not really having a block for it. Right, so he's found his Wind Mage, which I think he's going to be looking to deal most of the damage here.
It's going to become a Wind Mage. Oh, Pima out right off the top.
Yeah, it's going to get
I know
countered
it's
though.
not going to
But
resolve,
yeah,
but yeah.
like the last game, it just there's very few cards that Daniel has that actually close out the game. So he does need to find them. Like we saw the Aven Wind Mage, the Thundering Raiju. We didn't see much else as far as like cards that just come down and really swing it in his advantage. So yeah, Essence Scatter. He's still got the Ionize. He's still got the Capture Sphere.
Yeah, Jesse's going to have to basically draw creature, and against land at this point.
Yeah. All right, so Conclave Tribunal is going to come down. Let's see if Daniel decides to fight over this. He might just feel like he needs the Even Wind Mage too badly here to win the game, to let this Tribunal resolve just based on not having that many finishers.
Tasmina, it's not a spell, it's a trigger, so
Yeah.
didn't cost more.
Yeah, it's Conclave Tribunal does not does not target on cast. All right, so yeah, he did figure out that he needs the Save and Win Mage pretty badly here.
Look at that even at 4/4.
So no, Daniel is now basically going to be top decking. He has a land and a capture sphere. So if Jesse top decks better than him, he could very well have this game done pretty fast from 5 life here.
There are 2 board pumps we know of in
So he
Jesse's
did
deck.
he did allow him to go to combat here. I was thinking he was just gonna. Okay, so he's gonna block like this. He is gonna take 2 here, so he's getting
Jesse's
himself.
got no cards or mana, so
Yeah, he
that
figures
was safe.
now that I don't have any backup counter spells or anything, I kind of I really need to save my removal, but he realizes he has to use it here, and he's at the mercy of Jesse's top decks here. So Jesse gets to resolve
you're not gonna
anything he draws.
You're not gonna believe it. It's the Plains. I was hoping for more something more exciting. I'm sure Jesse was too, but this game's not over yet.
Oh, this is a fun card. I didn't notice this. We hadn't seen him in the previous game, and I hadn't seen his deck. Dreamstalker Manticore. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, it deals 1 damage to any target, I believe.
Is it Theros? The idea behind the Is it Theros cards was casting stuff in your
It turned out the deck was not great, but yeah, the archetype was supposed to you're supposed to cast spells on your opponent's turn, so that's why there was a bunch of creatures with flash, auras with flash. Yeah.
About 2 turns too late here, Chimera coming down. It would have been great on turns ago. Well, it's not terrible here, of course.
It's going to be a resilient at least. I mean, it will demand to be traded for, and then it'll be able to come back. So here's a Metamized Prophecy. Daniel's sitting here with 3 mountains in hand, and he's putting 2 more lands to the bottom. So if he draws another land next turn, the third ability of the Prophecy kind of gets turned off of like the draw 2 cards aspect.
I'll see what Jesse draws. It's gonna be important for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Daniel, he really only had one of his big draw spells, and it drew him mostly lands.
It is a creature. 2 mana, 2/2 vigilance. Vernati Shieldmate.
At this point in the game, that
Not
is plenty good enough. All right, so he's
Chimera
gonna.
comes back too.
Yeah, so he's gonna cast Chimera. He's gonna cast. So Daniel is attempting to hold full control here to bluff counter spells.
Looks like Chimera could come back about 5 times, maybe 4 times.
Yeah, that Chimera is. He's gonna be doing lots of escaping.
Gonna go on the battlefield right by the capture sphered creature, which pretty sad for Daniel. The capture sphere is not on the Chimera.
All right. Well, he's got a wall of mist, but unfortunately needs to cast it immediately. But
That would have been great last turn because it would have blocked the Chimera indefinitely.
I mean, I guess he could wait till next turn to. I guess he could wait till next turn to draw 2 cards with it. He might have to. Yeah. Yeah. He just has to hold it here.
It would have been great against
and he's
the
going to go to
Chimera
1 here unless Jesse finds removal, in which case he's going to go to 0.
It's not. It's a Rosemaiden Centaur, which is another body.
That's also plenty good here. So he's going to trade off 2 creatures. He's going to go to 1. And he's going to, hopefully his Wall of Mist is going to need to draw him something real good.
I thought it was a lot worse for Jesse than it actually turned out to be.
Yeah, well, once Daniel got to know more spells in hand, it basically became, free reign to resolve things.
Exact mana here. Chimera back on the field. That's pretty huge to have exact mana.
So there's 3 lethal threats. Daniel is going to see three new cards this turn. So, they all have to basically do something. Okay, so Scorch Mark.
With a ball box.
All right, so Scorch Mark is a clean answer to Chimera that he brought in from his sideboard. And he's got a Shielded Ether Thief and a Radical Idea. So this is actually, he is actually going to be okay here, because the Scorch Mark gets rid of the Chimera. The 0/4 blocks the 2/1, the 0/5 blocks the 4/4, and he even has a card draw left behind.
What's the Ether Thief do?
It's the 0/4 that gains an energy when it blocks.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can tap it to remove 3 energy, or it costs 3 energy, and you draw a card.
So does Jesse have top decks? Is the removal going to do it with the Ether Thief down?
He now has a Voltage Surge as well in hand, which is 2 damage to a creature.
Oh.
So Daniel will have 2 blockers and a 2 damage spell up.
Not good news for Jesse. It's a forest.
In comes both creatures. In comes the Ether Thief. He's coming to steal away your Ether and Jesse's hopes here. And all the while, Jesse is at 5 here from those hits from the Wind Mage. So something like a Raiju can really turn this. But okay,
some red spells do a single damage. So
he does have a Raiju on top.
Oh.
He also has a Mnemonic Sphere, which he can sacrifice to the Voltage Surge to kill the Centaur.
There's available direct damage in red. I don't remember exactly what Jesse has.
We now see that Jesse's drawing a Pledge of Unity next turn, while Daniel's drawing a Devious Cover-Up. So he's going to play the Sphere. So he can sacrifice the Sphere to deal 4 damage to the Centaur, but I think he's just gonna. He might opt to do that.
He knows what his opponent's getting, and his opponent does not.
So actually, if he can attack with the Raiju and the Ether Thief, put the counter on the Ether Thief, and that looks to be 5.
5?
Because the Ether Thief, despite being an 0/4, does not have Defender.
Doesn't have Defender.
Yeah. So
but it's on. Yeah.
So he puts the counter on that. 1 to them, 4 to the face, and we have our league champion. Well played there. Very, very close game. Could have gone either way there. And congratulations to Daniel G. 2 leagues in a row. So first time for that. Congratulations to him. And thanks everyone for watching.